Hello, and welcome to the annual Brookwood Veterans Day program. My name is Danica Lee, and I am a member of the Student Council. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans by letting them know that we appreciate their service so that we can honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. Today, we will honor that freedom by celebrating America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. At this time, if I could ask everyone who is able to please rise and join me in doing so for the presentation of colors by the Wilton American Legion, and to please remain standing as members of the Brookwood Choir and Band perform the national anthem.
Left face, hoist the color. Veterans, present arms. Order, arms.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. This year, our Veterans Day program is structured a little bit differently than in years past. This year, our Student Council participated in what we called a Veterans Day Oral History Project. By taking part in this project, 2 of our Student Council members had the opportunity to interview 2 different veterans whose stories will be shared with you here today. Later on in the program, we also have a very special Brookwood alumni who is currently assigned at Volkfield who will be speaking for us today. At this time, I would like to introduce Maggie Mullenkamp.
Veterans Day offers an opportunity for our students to learn more about those who served our country. The first interview we'll be watching is Vietnam veteran Larry Beaver. Larry is from Wilton, Wisconsin, and served from 1965 to 1967. He had basic training at Fort Lewis and then was sent to Vietnam to serve the remainder of his time. In Vietnam, he was a driver for the company commander headquartered Company 4th, Supply and Transportation. Please enjoy this interview by Dylan Powell.
I'm Dylan Powell, and I'm speaking to Vietnam veteran Larry Beaver about his service and what he would like to let us know. So our first question for you today, Larry, is could you explain finding out that you were drafted and what that experience was like for you and your family?
Well, to start with, I took my physical to find out if I was going to be eligible to be drafted, and I did this late November, and yes, I passed my physical, so I knew I was ready to go, thinking I would probably get drafted sometime after the first of the year. Well, it happened a little sooner than that. I ended up having to go down to Milwaukee. I got sworn in on the 21st of December. And later on that day, they shipped us out by train. We took to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We got down there, and because it was so close to Christmas, mostly all the personnel and service people that were doing the processing were gone on leave. So we just waited around and sat around and waited for Christmas to get over and them to get back. And then they started our process, getting us all sworn into the service and getting shots and things like that. Then we found out, I think it was on the middle of that week between Christmas and New Year's, where we were going to, what part of the service, because at that time they were drafting Army, Navy, and Marines. So we lined up. Basically, they had us in rows, had us count out 1, 2, 3, 4 as we'd go down the line. 1 and 4 were Army, 2 was Navy, 3 was the Marines. So that's how they chose the people that were going to go into various services that they would be serving in. And then I ended up getting shipped to Fort Lewis, is where I was going to be taking my basic. Left on New Year's Eve day, flew on a prop plane from St. Louis up to Minneapolis and took a jet out to Fort Lewis, got in out there probably late that day. We got the clothes that we'd be wearing starting New Year's Day, and they had us in bed, lights out at 9 o'clock, up at 5. And that's when the reality of I was in the service. I was a civilian for all these years, and normally I might have been coming home at 5 if I would have been. And instead, everything was changed. And that's how my realization that I was in the service sunk in.
What were some of the hardest lessons that you learned right into boot camp?
Well, luckily, I think because of my age, I was like 21 years old when I got drafted, and most of the people were 18, 19-year-olds. So because I think of my age, they thought maybe I had a little more experience, they made me a squad leader, and that turned out to have benefits and also challenges, because the squad leader became responsible for the 8 people that he was in charge of. And so not only did I have to take care of myself, I had the responsibility of making these other troops did what they were supposed to be doing. Basic training to me was not difficult. Physically, I was in good shape, and I was telling Dylan, I know he's a runner, and I said, Dylan, you could fly through basic because it's not for those that are in good physical shape, but there's a lot of them that weren't, and we'd go out on our runs, our mile run, and some of them could hardly make a half a mile. But the overall training was not that difficult for most of the people, but some of them, it was a struggle. But being a squad leader made me be more responsible, so that also benefited me down the line.
What was the transition like going from a U.S. training camp to base camp in Vietnam?
Well, that all was pretty much, we were aware of. There was strong rumors that the 4th Division, who was at Fort Lewis, Washington, they were working on building that whole division up, and that all of us were going to be shipped over there as a division. And so we had, special training for like 8 months. So on September, it came about that the division was going to leave to Vietnam. I got to come home for a leave before we went, and left home saying goodbye to everyone, and that was a little difficult. It's knowing where you're going. It's a little bit of a scary situation, and so then one of the things I found out that was really beneficial, it helped, is that I was going to be going over advance party, because I was the driver for the CO in the company commander. And even though in Fort Lewis, Washington, I used to check out my vehicle every day, but I never had to drive him because he had his own private car but now I would be driving for him. So I got to go advance party. We flew over in a C-141 cargo jet. No luxury liner, but it was a nice way to go. The troops, basically most of the troops went by troop ship. It was a horrendous. They were talking about it 6 months after they got over there, how terrible the storms they'd run into and how sick people were. And it wasn't a good experience, I don't think. And I was fortunate that I got to go over advance party and got there. I was there when they all got there on their troop ships. But that went, we were, the first place, the 4th Division was in Tuiwa. It's right on the South China Sea. We were a mile from probably as beautiful a beach as you would ever want to imagine. It was the beautiful white sand. And I wonder to this day, I bet you there are high-rise motels and that along that same beach. And there was nothing, it was just a beautiful beach, but no buildings, no nothing. And we did get to go down swimming once in a while. We were there for 6 months in Tuiwa, and then they moved the whole 4th Division up to the Central Highlands, Pleiku it was called. A little bit more of a hot area for fighting. Our infantry was quite involved. And I was with, the company I was with was the headquarters company of the 4th Supply and Transport Infantry Division. So I spent most of my time in the base camp. I did have to go out on base camp patrols, which involved about a mile or two outside the base, and set up overnight. They had several of these people that were support troops do that. But otherwise, I drove the CO around quite a bit, and I also worked the switchboard and the radios at the base camp there for our company. And so I had a lot of little duties that I had to do. But the boys that were out, the infantry boys that were out, pretty much spent most of their time out in some pretty rugged terrain fighting. There was a lot of things. I was fortunate. I did have a lot of that, but we did get some incoming artillery in our base camp. So that was pretty much the way life went there. There was a lot of people that were homesick, and well, I spent Thanksgiving over there, and I spent the Christmas over there, and those were kind of, we tried to make the most of it, and they tried. Thanksgiving we had turkey and good food, and at Christmas, we tried to make most of it, sing Christmas carols, and try and make the best of a situation like that. So, I had to end up serving about an extra month over there, so I'd have over 90 days left in my 2-year commitment. By doing that, I was able to, when I got back on September '67, I was got my honorable discharge from the Army. 5-minute re-up talk, that's all it took. No, thank you, sir. I'm done here. So anyway, I got out and had no further commitment to the Army because it was less than 90 days. Otherwise, I'd had to go to summer camps and stuff like that. But by the fact that I had been to Vietnam and had less than 90 days of my 2 years, I was done with my service. Got home and safe and sound. So that was good.
So while we're on the topic, can you explain to us what the welcome home was like for your family and Americans in general?
Well, for my family, it was joyous. I remember my mother picked me up, and she had tears, and just the fact that I got back, and it was happy. My family was happy. My friends were happy. The World War II vets at our Legion were so welcoming. They took me under and they got me all signed up for got me signed up for the Legion. They got me signed up for all the benefits I could get. And so they were really, but the the country was not in step. They did not favor the Vietnam. They were fed up with it. There was a lot of protesting going on. So there wasn't a lot of good feeling, but I never felt too much of that because I come back to a small town, and I was working at the Janesville General Motors plant before I got drafted, and I knew I was going back there because I got my 2 years seniority with them because I had worked long enough that they would give me the seniority of the 2 years I was gone. And so I knew I was going back there, and I never really felt any hostility because all the people that I was surrounded by, were good and very happy that I was back, and they were very supportive.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and doing this interview with us, and more importantly, thank you so much for your service. It means so much that people are willing to put it all on the line so we can be right here having the interview in a safe school like this one. So
yes.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I'd just like to say the 2 years I spent in the service was very beneficial to me. I learned to take care of myself and a lot of other things. So I think if more people would have to go into the service for that, they'd find it beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dylan, for the amazing interview, and a big thank you to Larry Beaver for your service to our country. Can we please give them another round of applause? At this time, Mackenzie Powell and I, Danica Lee, will be performing a duet titled Poor Wayfaring Stranger.
Thank you, Mac and Danica. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to introduce Chief Master Sergeant Travis Skronsky as our guest speaker for today's ceremony. Chief Skronsky was a 2002 graduate of Brookwood High School, and just like many others, joined Wisconsin National Guard his senior year of high school. Upon graduation, he attended basic training and control training, which he assigned squadron being located at Volkfield, Wisconsin. Chief Skronsky has deployed 3 times, to include 2 deployments to Kandahar Air Base, where he was responsible for controlling fighter aircraft over the skies of Iraq and Afghanistan, and is a graduate of Viterbo University. Currently, he's assigned as a senior enlisted leader at Volkfield and is responsible for health and morale of all assigned airmen. He is married to his lovely and supportive wife, Gina Skronsky, and has 3 beautiful kids, 2 which are here today in the audience, Harper and Sawyer.
All right, thank you, Lexi. I joked with Lexi that I was going to include her in the speech, but maybe next year. We'll work on that. So Special thanks to Mrs. Sykes, the Brookwood Student Council, and for the invitation to speak today, and Mr. Anderson, faculty, students of Brookwood High School, and fellow veterans. Thank you for being here today to show your gratitude and support for all who serve. My name is Chief Skoronsky. I'm the 2002 graduate of Brookwood High School, and my favorite class, to be honest, was a math class because public speaking was not involved in that. And for those of you that know Mrs. Buchholz, she was just amazing, so no offense, Mr. Mack, wherever you are. All right. Also, math is no longer my favorite subject after having to help my fourth grader through those struggles, so kudos to all you teachers on that one. So, I'm often asked why I chose to join the military. The answer shifted during the months surrounding my enlistment. My decision was made my senior year, and if you didn't know, you can enlist your senior year and attend basic training after that in the Air National Guard. So like many in the audience, I did not know what I wanted to do next in life, but being raised in a military family, I knew the benefits of joining the Air Guard to include free tuition and getting paid on the weekends. So that's initially what drew my interest. I could learn a trade, get paid, and not incur a debt. Done deal. In August of 2001, I agreed to enlist in the Wisconsin Air National Guard. The date we agreed upon was September 12, 2001. So we're going to pause there for a moment. So often when I speak to the military crowd, we ask a question about 9/11 and birth dates, and it makes some of us feel really old. So I'll save the hand raising here because the outcome's a little more predictable. But I'd venture to say the majority of the folks, at least in the back 2/3 of the room, were born after 9/11. And that's, if you were born prior, it might be too young to remember the events of 9/11 and how they unfolded that day. But they did change the course of history. And sometimes it's difficult for us seasoned folks to process that not everyone was born or old enough to recall the impact on the United States for the next 20+ years. So back to my enlistment, if you recall, the date that was chosen was September 12, 2001. On September 11, 2001, and to this day, I recall sitting in Mrs. Sykes' classroom watching the terrorist attacks unfold on the TV in the classroom at the time. The following day, September 12th, we went to Volk Field with recruiters and continued on with the enlistment. The unit was in the middle of being activated, and they were going to be supporting the radar gap in coverage over the skies of Chicago, Illinois to prevent a 9/11 over the Chicago airspace. My enlistment took on a new meaning: to serve my country, protect the homeland, and take the fight to the enemy. Like so many in attendance today, that meant more training, different kinds of training, and multiple schools and deployments. I am angered by the events of 9/11, saddened by the 7,000 service members that made the ultimate sacrifice in the Middle East, but grateful that I'm here today to share my story and know that I had an impact on the war on terrorism. And I continue to serve at Volk Field as we prepare the force and strive for global stability in Eastern Europe and Asia. All veterans in attendance should be proud of their service. No matter the conflict or the cause that you supported or are supporting, I personally thank each and every one of you. Veterans Day is a day to celebrate all those who answered the call to service, whether in peacetime or during times of war. Veterans Day commemorates the armistice which brought an end to the horrific combat of World War I. Many hoped that the First World War would not only be the last World War, but would be the war to end all wars. Thus, the diplomacy which resulted in an armistice agreement that halted combat at 11 a.m. on November 11, 1918. This was an achievement deemed worthy of commemoration. President Woodrow Wilson said these words during the first Armistice Day celebration on November 11, 1919. To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations. Raymond Weeks, a U.S. Navy veteran of World War II, recognized that the World War I would not be the last conflict America would be involved in. In 1946, he began an effort to change the name and emphasis of Armistice Day so that veterans would be recognized for their role in trying to ensure peace by meeting the foreign threat head-on. He personally delivered a petition for a National Veterans Day in 1947 to General Dwight Eisenhower. And in 1954, now President Eisenhower signed into law a bill changing Armistice Day to Veterans Day. President Ronald Reagan would later award Raymond Weeks the Presidential Citizens Medal in 1982 for his role in establishing Veterans Day. It is important to remember not just that our veterans served, but they sacrificed their time, safety, and in some cases their lives in the service of our country. We remember and honor our veterans today because their service ultimately was for the preservation of freedom. They trained to be effective and in some cases lethal in order to bring hostilities to an end as swiftly as possible and to make the case that the United States is a strong ally and a fearsome foe. There are millions of veterans in our nation today, and yet they remain a small fraction of our population that reflects both our nation's commitment to peace as well as how rare a quality it is being willing to serve our country in the military. A couple notable Wisconsin veterans include Billy Mitchell, whose military career began in the 1st Wisconsin Infantry Regiment, which was mobilized for the Spanish-American War and is considered one of the fathers of the independent Air Force. Mitchell Field, Milwaukee's airport, is named after Billy Mitchell. Richard Bong of Poplar, Wisconsin became the ace of all aces, the highest scoring air ace in U.S. history by shooting down at least 40 Japanese aircraft during World War II. Robert Bruce McCoy served in the Wisconsin National Guard in the Spanish-American War and in World War I. He commanded the 128th Infantry Regiment when it pierced the German Hindenburg Line, which inspired the 32nd Division's iconic logo, the Red Arrow. Land he purchased near Sparta, Wisconsin for National Guard training later was named after him, Fort McCoy. Lieutenant Jerome Vogt served in the Wisconsin National Guard and was the first Wisconsin pilot killed in the Korean conflict. In 1957, the Wisconsin legislature officially designated the Air Force training site in Camp Douglas, Vogt Field Air National Guard Base. As we salute all those who have served our nation and have sacrificed their comfort and security in order to serve, I ask that you honor them by cherishing this great nation and the liberties that we enjoy. The Wisconsin Veterans Museum has a slogan that every veteran is a story, and certainly our veterans are an important part of the fabric woven into our nation's story. They are individual threads that intertwine into a complex tapestry that tells the tale of service and sacrifice, of courage and fear and victory and setbacks. They live their story, and their story shapes our story. It was an honor to be here with you today to represent the 10,000 citizen soldiers and airmen of the Wisconsin National Guard. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Happy Veterans Day to all those who have served in our nation's armed forces. And if I could please have Mrs. Stykes come forward for a moment. How many years has this been going on? 28 years? So we've been here a couple once we moved back to the district, so we appreciate the invite every year, and I know all veterans in the audience appreciate the efforts that Mrs. Stykes and the Student Council do each year. So on behalf of all veterans in the audience today, we want to present the Student Council with a print from Vogt Field. So it represents Wisconsin Air and Army National Guards. We got the F-16s out of Madison flying over Vogt, and we have the Army's UH-60s on the ramp below. So on behalf of all of us, to you and the Student Council, thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Travis. The Brookwood Choir, under the direction of Hunter Evenson, will now perform We Remember, arranged by Mac Huff.
Even when the
Thank you, choir, for that wonderful performance. At this time, members of the Brookwood Student Council will be presenting some inspirational quotes.
As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. John F. Kennedy.
The unparalleled perseverance of the armies of the United States through almost every possible suffering and discouragement for the space of 8 long years was little short of a standing miracle. George Washington.
To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory. President Woodrow Wilson.
I only regret that I have but one life to give for my country. Nathan Hale.
Veterans know better than anyone else the price of freedom, for they've suffered the scars of war. We can only offer them no better tribute than to protect what they've won for us. President Ronald Reagan.
Only the dead have seen the end of war. George Santana.
The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated this ground, far above our poor power to add or distract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. President Abraham Lincoln.
It is my pleasure to introduce our next veteran, Paul Obert, interviewed by Katie Gruen. Mr. Obert was an active duty soldier with the 2nd Infantry Division in Hawaii. He served from 1984 to 1987. While on active duty, he deployed to the Philippines during an insurrection and to Panama for Jungle Expert School, which was led by an American Special Forces unit. He also deployed to Japan for winter weather training alongside both Green Berets and Japanese soldiers.
Hi, I'm Katie Gruen, and I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Olbert about Veterans Day. So, Mr. Olbert, what does Veterans Day mean to you?
I think it means a lot more since I've been at Brookwood, because every year Brookwood does a spectacular job with Veterans Day, and I think the veterans really appreciate it. We have a program every year. They're invited for lunch afterwards, and while we do the interview, I just wanted to say that I haven't done anything really heroic in the military, and I think the real heroes are the people who didn't enlisted like I did, but were drafted, maybe into Korea, into Vietnam, and they had other things that they may have wanted to do with their life, but they served their country because they were called, and they're the people I really appreciate the most.
Okay. When were you drafted, or when did you enlist?
Well, I enlisted in 1985, I think it was, a long time ago, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. My dreams of being a pro baseball player had been dashed, I think, after a year or so playing college baseball, and I really thought I'd like the adventure. And I asked the recruiter, I said, when I'm watching these movies, I see on their helmets the people have written FTA on it, and I didn't know what that meant. And he goes, it means fun, travel, and adventure. And I thought, this will be fun. And I realized later on it didn't mean that. I thought it'd be an adventure, and it was.
Could you tell me a little bit about basic training?
Well, basic training, the reason they call it basic is because it's the same for everybody, whether you're a nurse or you're a clerk or you're in the infantry like I was. And it's basically getting up early, learning to make your bed, running, push-ups, sit-ups, learning how to shoot an M16 was when I was there. Some of the things everybody does that they talk about is throwing a live grenade and going through the gas chamber. And it's not just me, it is every single person does that. And really, there's a lot of control there, but most of the time it's an investment, so the drill sergeants are making sure that you get through it.
If you deployed overseas, how did you tell your loved ones you were being deployed?
Well, I went to the Philippines the first time, and ironically, I ended up living there 4 years as a teacher later on, but I couldn't really find it on the map probably back then. I told my mom, and as a private, we really didn't know what we were doing or why we were going there, other than there were communist rebels and there was an insurrection and they were getting rid of the president. And I really wasn't sure, so I didn't know what to tell my parents. And they were like, all they said was good luck.
If you saw multiple deployments, how did they differ from each other?
I went to the Philippines a couple of times. I went to Panama for jungle training, and then we did some things in the jungle with the Green Berets. And again, I knew where Panama was, but I didn't know what I was getting into, so that one was a little scarier. Japan I went to just for winter training, but the Panama and the Philippines were different. They're similar because they're both in the jungle, but they're different because of the nature of what was going to happen. And I didn't really know what was going to happen either time.
Was there anything you especially missed about civilian life?
Actually, I could grow my hair back then, and I missed that. I missed the food, and I think I just missed the rights or the privileges of being able to do whatever I wanted and not being under control all the time and being told what to do 24/7. I would say would be number one.
Did you ever get caught breaking any rules?
Yes. I broke a couple of rules. I got in trouble once or twice. I would say it involved a fight. And it wasn't uncommon back then that was just kind of what the military did off duty. So it wasn't terrible like it might have been now. But that was about it. I didn't do a lot. I stayed out of trouble mostly.
When did you leave the military, and what was the process like?
Well, I served my time. I got an honorable discharge, and I wanted to go back to college. And a couple of schools recruited me to play baseball. They still remembered me, surprisingly. And I decided to go to Viterbo. And somebody who was a retired colonel was a professor at Viterbo. He wrote a letter saying, could you process him out as fast as possible? He needs to start school. So I got out of the military 2 days before school started. So that was kind of a shock. While other kids were complaining about getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to class, that wasn't really a problem for me.
What were the first months of out of service like?
I was really kind of happy. It was something new. It was like, now's the chance to get my degree, use my GI Bill, the military money, and make something of my life. And I was really happy to be out. And I felt free. I did miss a lot of things about being stationed in Hawaii, where I lived for 3 years, but I was ready for the change.
How do you think your time in the military affected you?
Well, I think it gave me a chance to see life other than Wisconsin. I'm from Sparta, got to see the Pacific, and when I graduated, I wanted to go back. And so that's why I decided to teach overseas when I graduated. I went to Guam and taught, went to the Philippines and taught, and I met my wife.
When you were first discharged, what were some things about civilians that were difficult for you to deal with?
I think it was just being on time. I think there was no chance. If you were late, you were in trouble, and just being on time and being undisciplined. And I think gradually I fit right back in with them.
Do you have anything else you'd like to mention about Veterans Day?
Well, again, I'd like to thank Brookwood. Really quickly about me, I wore my 25th Infantry Division t-shirt today. That was the unit I served in Hawaii. They sent more people to Vietnam than any other division. I'm proud to be at Brookwood and see how they treat veterans. And I think another thing to remember is when a lot of these Vietnam veterans came back, or the Korean War veterans, they didn't have parades and people weren't saying thank you for your service. They were, they didn't care that much. And I think that the appreciation we show is really good.
All right. Thanks for letting us interview you today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, for the wonderful interview, and thank you, Mr. Olbert, for your service to our country. Can we please give them another round of applause? The band will now be performing a salute to all of our veterans and current members of the Armed Forces with a piece titled United States Armed Forces Salute, arranged by Douglas Wagner. When you hear your branch's tune being played, please stand if you are able to be recognized for your service. Thank you very much to the band for that fantastic performance. Now I would like to take some time to introduce our veterans. When the microphone is passed to you, please stand and state your name, branch, and the time frame in which you served.
Dave Decken, Wisconsin Army National Guard, 1977 to 2008. Steve Brando, United States Navy, 1975-79.
Dan Dutton, United States Air Force, Wisconsin Army National Guard, 1977 to 2003.
Dale North, Wisconsin Army from 1958 to 60 and from Guards, 60 through 62.
Roy Schaefer, Master Sergeant, Air Force retired, 71 to 91.
Wilbur Crook, Navy, 60, 64.
Mike Newman, active Army, 67 to 69, National Guard from 60 or 70, 80, 73 to 83, and then National Guard from 83 to 210, I think, or something like that.
I'm Skip Pierce, United States Army. I'm also a Vietnam veteran, 1968 to 1969.
I'm Mike Zitlow. I was in the United States Army from 1990 to 1993.
Hudson Talcott. I was in the regular Army, U.S. Army from 65 to 68, Vietnam veteran, and Wisconsin National Guard from 75 to 2006.
I'm Jim Martin, U.S. Army, 1972 to 75, Army National Guard, 75 to 2006.
Mark Williams, U.S. Army, 1971 to 73.
Tony Guerra, U.S. Coast Guard, 1975 to 1998, retired.
Hi, Robert Burkholz, U.S. Army, 1966 to 1968.
Bill Tyler, U.S. Navy, Vietnam, 1967, 1969.
Gary Von Hayden, U.S. Army, 1963 to 66. I'm getting old.
Larry Beaver, U.S. Army, 65 to 67, Vietnam, 66.
Gary Janish, I served in Vietnam in 1967 to 1968.
David Nevin, U.S. Army, 63 to 66.
Bill Timor, the United States Army, 1966 to 68, Vietnam veteran. Joe Calvin, Wisconsin Army National Guard, 1960, Berlin Crisis era, 1993, retired.
Robert Brooke, 1963 to 66, Vietnam era.
Bruce Ballard, U.S. Army, 55 to 50.
William Miles, U.S. Army, 1990 to 2002.
Schrader, United States Air Force, 1970 to 1974.
Travis Grunski, Air Force, 2001 at
Eugene Oyam, served in active Army, served in 1964 to 1966.
Raymond Hines, U.S. Army, 68, 69.
Albert Dewitt, 55 to 62.
Carol Smith, United States Air Force, 71 to 77, Air National Guard till 84.
Sarah Decken, Army National Guard, 1989 to 2014, and currently serving United States Army Reserves.
Are there any other veterans in the audience?
Dave Gruber, U.S. Air Force, retired 1984 to 2010.
Justin Kennedy, United States Army Reserve, 93 till today.
Mike Stevenson, U.S. Navy, 1966 to 69, Vietnam vet.
Any other veterans? We would like to thank all of our veterans for their service to our country. Your hard work and dedication is much appreciated. Can we please give them all a round of applause? We are now going to transition into one final performance from our choir and band. Often referred to as our country's second national anthem, America the Beautiful, upon which this musical paraphrase is based, celebrates not only the natural beauty to be discovered in our 50 states, but also the beauty in the hopes and dreams of those who founded and built our nation. Maurice Whitney's emotionally charged arrangement is presented in this unique scoring for younger players. The arranger has scored the piece so that it can still stay true to the original beauty of the song, which includes rich harmonic content, inventive countermelodies, and thrilling dynamic peaks. The closer brings the whole piece together and brings home that theme that expresses what it means to be a truly proud American. Please enjoy From Sea to Shining Sea, arranged by Catherine Lee Bates and Maurice Whitney.
thank you to the choir and band for that amazing performance. Hello, my name is Braden Tiemann, and today I'm going to be showing you how to access our school's YouTube channel through our school website. So if we go to our web browser and we look up now.k12.wi.us, you'll find our school's district. And if we go to this little YouTube icon right here and click on that, you will have access to our YouTube channel. The interviews to the veterans will be posted on this YouTube channel at noon on Monday the 14th. Again, I would like to thank all of the active and retired veterans for all they have done and are doing for us. And special thanks to Paul Olbert and Larry Beaver for their participation in our interviews. Let's give them all a big round of applause, please.
Thank you, Braden. And with that, our 2022 Veterans Day concert has come to an end. On behalf of myself and the entire Brookwood community, I would like to, once again, thank all of the veterans for their service to our country. We appreciate all of the hard work and effort that you have put into keeping us safe. I would also like to thank the band and choir for their outstanding performances today, as well as the janitorial staff for assisting us in setting up for the program. We really appreciate your help. In a short while, as you begin to walk to lunch, please notice the stars hanging on the walls within the annex. These stars are our way of showing recognition to our veterans for their displays of courage and bravery. Please feel free to take your star or the star of a loved one off of the wall and home with you. At this time, I ask for all whom are able to please rise as Mason Rex and Thomas Wooten perform taps, and to please remain standing for the retiring of the colors by the Wilton American Legion.
Yep. Okay. Veterans, present arms. Order arms. Retrieve the colors. Left face. Forward march.
Thank you all for coming. We hope that you enjoyed today's program, and we look forward to seeing all of you again next year.
Well, it's Veterans Day celebration here at Brookwood High School. With me, District Administrator Travis Anderson. And Travis, what a wonderful display of patriotism going on out here today. The crowd, the student body, so polite and receptive to things. Thank you for allowing stuff like this to go on.
Yeah, our kids did a phenomenal job. Credit to Lisa Stikes and the Student Council for all their hard work, and Hunter Evenson, who directs the choir, and Wade Behrens, who directs the band. They did a tremendous job just honoring our veterans, and we're thankful that all of our veterans are able to make it today.
You know, when you take a look at stuff over the years, and one of the things that's really cool is to go around and the veterans introduce themselves and their years of service. There's some that have been around for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the sacrifices they made many, many years ago and still are sacrificing today, we're just very appreciative of their service. And yeah, it's been a lot of years, but you know, it's no different. We thank them for what they did, and no matter what year it was.
Right. You know, all of a sudden behind us, you can hear in the background, you can see in the background, they're getting everything picked up, but tremendous job by the custodial staff, the student body coming in, the student council, and that whole program. I mean, it takes a lot of hands to make this work.
Oh, for sure. Our kids do a great job here at Brookwood. They're always willing to chip in. They help out with nearly every task that we ask them to. I mean, you can see them right now cleaning up all the chairs with our custodial staff. Even our band teacher and is back there helping too. So, you know, I mean, it's a total team effort here. No matter if it's the Veterans Day program or nearly any program that's going on. Yeah. We're very proud of our kids for all that they do, and that they are willing to chip in and help out.
Right. Well, thanks again. We hope, everyone, that you enjoyed watching this great Veterans Day program here. I think they took it up a notch, Mr. Anderson, today.
They did. Normally we hold it in the classic gym, so they decided to do a few new things this year, and it is truly top notch. And credit to all of our kids and our staff for the great work that they do, and for the veterans for being here, because it's all about them. So thank you.
Thank you. And stay tuned. We're going to see if we can't find some veterans to talk to them a little bit more and get some other insight as to their career in the military. Back in a moment.
This is Liz. This is Lawson. This is Grandpa O.
And you are?
Abe Rickheim.
So, Abe, you got some pretty nice guests here, and of course a very special guest. What's Grandpa's name? Or should we ask Grandpa?
Ask Grandpa.
Ask Grandpa? Okay. So, Grandpa, what's your full name?
My full name is Eugene Oyam, and these are all my little grandkids. And it's a special day for me to come here and be with them.
Pretty neat to have all three of them here, and you get a chance to have a great meal and sit with them and stuff. So, what's something that now did you guys get to come in and watch, or are you just going to get a chance to eat with Grandpa? What was that? Do you remember?
Just kind of just eating with Grandpa.
Just getting a chance to eat with Grandpa. Well, that makes it a real special day, just like he said, right? Mm-hmm. So, Eugene, when did you serve in the military?
I was drafted into the military in 1964, May.
Okay.
And I was in the Army, and they sent me to Fort Leonard Wood for my basic training, and it was hot down there. And after that, I went to a school in Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Wow.
And I went to the military police school down there.
Okay.
And then when I graduated there, they kept me there. And on that base, they trained these lieutenants out of the college to be leaders in the military police school. Mm-hmm. And I served there as the instructors down there.
Oh, wow.
You know, just support, I guess, is what you'd say.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I spent most of my time.
Okay. And when did you finish up?
In 1966.
66, okay. All right. So I just want to say thank you for your service, and you know, it is a very special time that you're able to be here with Abe and Liz and Lawson. It's just great to see that, and a fun family day.
Yeah, it's a special day, and it was really a good program down there.
That was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great that way. Well, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate that. And give these guys a hug before you leave, right? Or you guys give Grandpa a hug before you leave, okay?
Yeah, they're special.
All right. Well, you guys want to wave at the camera as we leave? We'll close things out. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. So, all right, we're back here again at Brookwood. This is the elementary, and it's lunchtime. Nora, you're going to introduce some people for us, right?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So who is that right beside you there?
Grandpa.
Okay, and over across here?
Papa Bruce.
Grandpa Bruce, all right?
Grandpa Bruce.
And they got a friend sitting with them.
Michelle's dad.
Michelle's dad.
Michelle's dad.
Yeah, Mrs. Hyatt's dad.
Mrs. Hyatt.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. So how about that? Are you kind of happy to have everybody around today?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of neat with that. Did you get a chance to go into the program, or did you just get a chance to eat with Grandpa and Grandma?
Eat with Grandma and Grandpa.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty special. So we're going to turn the look over here. Can you tell us when you guys served and everything then?
I served in the Navy in 1966 to 1969 in Vietnam.
Wow.
And I served in the U.S. Army from 1955 to 58.
I had an uncle that was in the Navy during the Vietnam War, and my dad was stationed in Fort Mammoth, New Jersey. That was in, I think just after you were in. You said 55?
55 to 58.
Yeah, my dad went in late 55, 56, because I came along in 56. So
October 2nd, when I went in 1955. Got out 3rd of October in 58.
Okay. And how long did both of you serve then?
I was in Darmstadt, Germany for 2.5 years. 3 years I served.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Very nice, Jaden.
Very nice.
3 years I was in.
Okay. Good.
And just short of 4 years.
Just short of 4 years. Wow.
I was on an aircraft carrier.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for everything. And thank you. You had to, like put up with a lot of loneliness, I would imagine, things like that, different times?
We weren't married yet.
Oh, you weren't yet?
No.
Yeah, but you were still probably wondering when he's coming back.
We've been married 62 years.
Wow. That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nora, you got some special people here today. Thanks for helping me out with this. Okay?
Nora's a special girl.
Yes. You should watch her outside. She's doing all these back flips and everything.
I believe it.
Yeah, showing off all her gymnastic stuff, right? Yep. Power like a girl. All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right.